The top 10 Doomsday End of the World Prophecies. Why does it seem that every few years, and lately every year, someone comes up with a new date and a Doomsday End of the World prophecy? The latest craze happened to be on September 23rd, 2023, when internet doomsdayers put out that we would all be annihilated through nuclear annihilation. Thankfully, that didn't occur. So, whether the supposed agent of doom happens to be aliens, asteroids, floods, or earthquakes, the outcome is always the same. The Earth manages to endure, and so has humanity so far. Such predictions and doomsday's prophecies are nothing new. We can go all the way back to the 1st century AD when early Christians believed that Jesus would return to the earth, bringing an end to life as we knew it, as described in the Bible under Mark 13:24-26, where it states, "But in those days, after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and great glory." Ever since the 1st century AD, there certainly has been absolutely no shortages when it comes to apocalyptic end of days prophecies and predictions. But why exactly? Why is it that people actually feel a need to predict the end of the world? I don't, and I do and provide very accurate predictions and prophecy. And if you've been following me long enough, you know that there's a new earth coming. Not an apocalyptic time that ends all of humanity, maybe for some, but not for all. It's going to be the end of things as we know them, the end of the current economic system, the end of so many things. But from that, as all the prophecies speak, there will be a new earth that blooms into a golden age when all of humanity comes together as one and rebuilds the earth in a different spiritually grounded way. Living in the way that the native Hopi people and other native traditions have warned us for decades and generations. But nobody listened. So again, why do people insist on predicting dates for the end of the world? And even more so, why do people insist on believing them and falling for it every single time? Perhaps some zealots feel the need to justify their preconceived worldviews through revelations about the latest celestial event or natural disaster. Maybe, just maybe, perhaps those who trust these doomsdayer prophets are simply just hopeful for an escape from a world that seems so cruel and chaotic. Whatever the case may be, I have no doubt that you are going to enjoy these top 10 Doomsday End of the World prophecies. But remember, the end of the world ain't coming anytime soon, friends. The number 10 top 10 doomsday predictions starts with the Seekers, who believed that the world would come to an end on December 24th, 1955. Obviously, they were very wrong. In December 1954, a headline in the Chicago Tribune read, "Doctor warns of disaster in the world Tuesday. The worst is to come in 1955, he declares." The doctor, Charles Lawhead, was a follower of Dorothy Martin, a 54-year-old housewife from Oak Park, Illinois. Martin believed that aliens from the planet Clarion beamed down prophecies and messages informing her that a massive flood would destroy the entire planet. Her wild prophecies, of course, attracted a small group of followers that called themselves the Seekers. Many of them who have actually quit their jobs and sold all of their belongings in anticipation of the end of days. They gathered at Martin's home on Christmas Eve 1955, singing along with Christmas carols while they waited to be saved by the aliens in their flying saucers. As the night wore on, Martin's followers became increasingly impatient. Finally, at 4:45 a.m. on Christmas Day, Martin announced that God has been so impressed by their actions that he will no longer destroy the earth. Interesting. The story actually has a side note that is almost as interesting as the prophecy itself. A small group of psychologists and students organized by the University of Minnesota social psychologist Leon Fetzinger infiltrated the Seekers group in an effort to study and better understand apocalyptic cults. Festinger revealed in his findings in the 1956 book When Prophecy Fails, a social and psychological study of a modern group that predicted the destruction of the world. This work was an early exploration of the psychologist's now famous theory referred to as cognitive dissonance, a term that refers to the human tendency to rationalize when one's thoughts and actions are in a disagreement. The number 9 Doomsday Prophecy puts the Earth's final day at December 21st, 2012, a date that nothing happened, of course. The Mayan Aztec calendar Doomsday Prophecy. The 2009 movie, 2012, was over 2 hours worth of apocalyptic eye candy, bringing about enough death and destruction to bring up the question, what's so bad about 2012? And of course, that would depend on who you ask exactly. And all this fear was based basically on the way some people interpreted the Mayan long count calendar, which is divided into great cycles lasting approximately 5,125 years. One of these cycles happened to end on December 21st, 2012, giving, of course, the Doomsdayers lots of ammunition that they needed to declare an impending apocalypse and end of the world scenario. And they had the movie 2012 to also back them up with the fear-mongering of the Doomsday 2012 prediction. Of course, there have also been numerous theories about exactly how the world was going to end back on December 21st, 2012. Some people claim that the mysterious planet referred to as Nibiru or Planet X, which is basically a huge meteor, was going to collide directly into the Earth, which again, never did happen, thankfully. And if you want to know more about the planet Nibiru and the Great Purifier as it was referred to by the Hopi natives, you're going to want to check out the video, The Great Purifier, where I talk in depth and show all the evidence and even the date that this will all actually begin. Not the end of times, just the end of things as we know them. Of course, another popular theory which goes along with prophecies actually, just not with the date December 21st, 2012, and that was the theory that the Earth's poles were going to reverse, causing the planet's rotation to reverse as well, of course, bringing about apocalyptic scenarios with tidal waves, earthquakes, and so forth. Of course, scientists dismissed all those theories and just laughed them all off. They contend that if there was a celestial body that were about to crash into the Earth, they would have already have noticed it. But really, would they have actually told us? And will they actually tell us when the planet Nibiru comes into our solar system, as it's been prophesied by so many, including the Hopi native people? At the same time, astronomers actually do recognize that the magnetic poles of the Earth do reverse approximately every 400,000 years, according to them. But nobody really knows, and if they know, they're certainly not telling us. Perhaps one of the most interesting parts of this whole apocalyptic doomsday prediction of the Mayan Aztec calendar comes from the Mayans themselves, who actually did not believe or expect the Earth to come to an end in 2012. Instead, they celebrated it as a time of good luck and the ending of a great cycle of our planet Earth. I was there in Chichen Itza, Mexico, celebrating with them on that day. I knew, and I did predictions and prophecy back then and told you that that wasn't going to happen. It was ushering in a new time, a new age, and the end of a great cycle, the beginning of a new one. If we look back since 2012, things have definitely shifted, and the darkness is definitely being poured out into the light. Hallelujah. My number 8 doomsday prophecy goes to Harold Camping, who put the Earth's final day at May 21st, 2011. The Holy Bible is very clear when it comes to doomsday prophecy, including the date for the end of times, which actually is not at all stated in the Bible. Instead, from the Holy Bible's Mark 13:32, it states the following: But of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in the heavens, neither the Son, but only the Father. But of course, that hasn't stopped any of the believers who still fall for it when doomsdayers predict a date for the end of times. One such man would be Harold Camping. Harold Camping is a retired engineer who believes that the Bible is a numerical code book and that it can be deciphered to reveal clues about the end of times. Camping, who happens to be the founder of the independent ministry Family Radio International, first predicted the end of the world would occur in September 1994, but of course that never happened. But when Harold Camping's apocalyptic doomsday date didn't materialize, he attributed the error, of course, to incomplete research. Harold Camping gained a lot more attention when he came up with his latest doomsday prediction being May 21st, 2011. In addition, an interview with the New York Magazine on May 11th, 2011, the 89-year-old was brimming with confidence, saying, "God has given me so much information in the Bible about this, and so many proofs, and so many signs, that we know it is absolutely going to happen without no question at all." But again, it never did happen. Harold Camping was so certain that the world was going to end on May 21st, 2011, that he talked his ministry into spending millions of dollars plastering the Judgment Day message on more than 5,000 billboards and 20 recreational vehicles that carried the warning to the general public. And when that day, May 21st, 2011, came along, it went without any interruptions, of course, and humanity still lived on. Of course, Camping did what any doomsdayer would do, and he blamed the mistake on a mathematical error and moved the date back to October 21st, which again, never happened. My number 7 doomsday prophecy goes to William Miller, who prophesied the Earth's final day would happen in the year 1843 or 1844, one of the two, but again, it never happened. William Miller and his group, the Millerites, might sound a little bit like a 1960s pop act, but in the 1840s, they were actually a fairly successful doomsday cult. That is, if you happen to measure their success by the number of followers, and of course not by their eventual occurrence of the predicted apocalypse. Miller was a product of what was referred to as the Second Great Awakening, a period of intense religious revival from which several modern denominations were born, including the Mormons and the Seventh-day Adventists. A farmer turned preacher, Miller created this wave of spiritual fever with his prediction that Jesus would return to the earth in March 1843. He derived his prophecy from a complex system of mathematical calculations and promoted it by giving sermons and passing out pamphlets during the 1830s and the early 1840s. Scholars estimate that of the some 1 million people who have heard his sermon and message, about 100,000 of them actually chose to follow him. As March 1843 neared, many of these believers sold all of their possessions, they donned themselves in white robes and climbed to the tops of mountains and hills to await their rapture into heaven. When nothing happened, of course Miller moved the date to October 1844, which also proved to be a big bust. This led to many people labeling this event as the Great Disappointment. Therefore, most of Preacher Miller's followers abandoned him completely, and some of those went on to form the Atheist Church. And the number 6 doomsday prophecy goes to Halley's Comet, who put the Earth's final days in the month of May 1910. Of course, a unique astronomical event is a surefire way to inspire doomsdayers with predictions for the end of the world. Enter Halley's Comet, a ball of icy dust that is visible from the Earth every 76 years. When this celestial body was scheduled to pass in 1910, the claims of impassionate astronomers at Chicago's Yerkes Observatory inspired fear in a surprising number of people. They insisted that the tail of Halley's Comet was made up of poisonous cyanogenic gas. Therefore, when the Earth passes through it on May 18, 1910, the toxic fumes, of course, would be widespread, causing widespread fatalities all over the planet and an end to humanity. Of course, some opportunists took this as an opportunity to profit from the hysteria, therefore selling Comet pills, masks, bottled oxygen, all intended to help people survive the noxious Armageddon. As the deadly date approached, some concerned citizens put towels under their doors and covered up the keyholes with paper to ensure that they would be safe from the gas cloud. Others refused to go to work, choosing to stay at home with their families instead, while others sought refuge at churches. For those who were not taken by the apocalyptic end of days prophecy, they took to their rooftops and watched the night pass by in comet parties held all over the United States. And my number 5 doomsday prophecy goes to the Hadron Collider, putting the Earth's final days happening between 2009 and 2012. To all those out there without a physics particle degree, the Large Hadron Collider may just appear to be a big piece of scary equipment, which it really is. The massive particle accelerator's circular tunnel, located just outside of Geneva, Switzerland, measures 17 miles or 28 kilometers in total circumference. It can send hydrogen protons crashing into one another nearly at the speed of light, allowing scientists to discover new elements and particles that may shed light on the creation of the universe. That is, if everything actually goes as planned, which we already know now today in 2023 that it has not all gone as planned. And some people believe that this has opened up portals and even the gates to hell, which I'll somewhat agree to, because the Hopi prophecy tells us that portals will be open that are supposed to remain closed, unleashing dark entities upon the planet. Some theorists suggest that the massive energies created during such collisions could potentially form black holes, capable of engulfing our entire planet. These fears came to a head in March of 2008, when Walter Wagner and Louis Sancho filed a lawsuit in a U.S. court to stop the Large Hadron Collider from beginning operation until scientists produced a safety report and an environmental assessment. Of course, most scholars do acknowledge the possibility of black holes, but they dismiss the danger, insisting that any such anomaly would only last just a few seconds, hardly long enough to swallow up the entire Earth. Despite all the controversy, the Large Hadron Collider fired up in 2009, and since they have accomplished some remarkable feats, including creating a soupy mass of matter thought to resemble the conditions of the universe just after the Big Bang. By the end of 2010, all the way up to our current time of 2023, no black holes have been detected in the Large Hadron Collider as far as we know. Because would they actually tell us if there were anyway? Of course they wouldn't. And according to doomsdayers, that does not at all indicate that we are in the clear from the dangers of the Large Hadron Collider. And if you look deeper into the Large Hadron Collider, it was just opened up and closed again, and it's just got some really bad vibes. But it certainly did not bring the Earth to its final days, thankfully. And our number 4 doomsday prophecy goes to Shoko Asahara, putting the Earth's final days in the year 1997 and the year 2000. Why wait for the apocalypse when you can actually make it happen yourself? This was the mindset of the Japanese doomsday prophet Shoko Asahara. Born in 1955, Asahara was completely blind in one eye and partially sightless in the other. His rise as a cult leader all began shortly after his arrest in 1982 for selling fake cures from his traditional Chinese apothecary business. The would-be prophet was reportedly crushed by the incident, which actually left him embarrassed and bankrupt. In 1984, Asahara opened up his own yoga studio, boasting that he has achieved Satori, a Japanese term for enlightenment, and claiming that he could now levitate as well. He established the Shinrikyo religion in 1987, a name derived from the sacred Hindu symbol and the Japanese word that translates into supreme truth. He also gained more than 10,000 followers in Japan and 30 to 40,000 in Russia, and even produced several candidates to run in the 1990 Japanese legislative elections. As Asahara's fame and success increased, his behavior became increasingly peculiar. He began encouraging his followers to drink bathwater and blood, and claimed that he could save them from the pending apocalypse, which he believed would occur after a poison attack sometime between 1997 and the year 2000. Perhaps in an effort to speed along the process, members boarded 5 trains on March 20th, 1995 and released a toxin sarin into the subway lines. That attack caused 12 fatalities and injured more than 5,000 people. Asahara was soon after arrested by the Japanese officials, and he was executed in February of 2004. And his prophecies all came to pass, and humanity still lives on. And our number 3 doomsday prophecy, of course, will go to Heaven's Gate, who put the Earth's final days in the year 1997.
Planet Earth about to be recycled. Your only chance to evacuate is to leave with us. Planet Earth about to be recycled. Your only chance to survive or evacuate is to leave with us.
Marshall Applewhite, with his piercing, wide-eyed stare, certainly looks like a man who is destined to lead a doomsday cult. He was the leader of Heaven's Gate, a cult founded in Texas in the early 1970s. Soon the group moved to the American Southwest, where Applewhite began preaching that a spaceship was going to come and spare all of his true believers from the apocalypse and take them to the heavenly, a level above human. After 2 decades of proselytizing in the desert, Heaven's Gate moved to California, where they started a web consulting business called Higher Score to fund their activities. They lived in a sprawling Spanish-style house where they reportedly watched episodes of The X-Files and Star Trek religiously. Heaven's Gate took a very grim turn in 1997, the year that the comet Halley began to shine brightly in the night sky. It all started on November 14, 1996, when Applewhite and his followers were listening to Art Bell's Coast to Coast, a radio show dedicated to UFO topics. During the program, an amateur astronomer called into the show and claimed that he had photographed a mysterious object hiding in Halley Bop's tail. This was all the evidence that Applewhite needed to confirm that his spaceship prophecy from the 1970s was about to come into fruition. Soon after, Applewhite and his group began preparation for the UFO apocalypse by drinking a substance and executing themselves. When the police entered the California compound on March 26, 1997, they found 39 bodies dressed in black tunics with a cloth draped over their heads. They had all taken their own lives with a cocktail of vodka and barbiturates and by smothering themselves with plastic bags. In 1997 came and passed, and we are all still here, thankfully. And the number 2 doomsday end of days prophecy goes to Y2K, placing the Earth's final days in the year 2000, which again, thankfully, did not happen. The year 2000 sparked a number of doomsday scares, but none was as prominent as the supposed Y2K computer glitch. The problem was this: when the computer codes were first written, dates were actually abbreviated to 2 digits in order to save memory. For example, 1998 would have simply been written as 98. The entire system worked just fine until the year 2000 came along, when the date code 00 threatened to cause inaccurate calculations. A 1998 feature story from Microsoft offers an excellent example to illustrate the perceived problem. For example, say you buy a refrigerator with a credit card in 1999. The bank's going to run into problems when the year 2000 rings in, when it tries to calculate the interest that's owed and subtracts that from the transaction date, 99, from the current date, 00. The computer, of course, is going to come up with the number 99. Some people, especially the doomsdayers, believed that this glitch was going to bring about apocalyptic consequences. Some of the gloomy predictions and prophecies said that at the stroke of midnight on January 1st, 2000, airplanes would begin to just drop out of the skies as elevators drop from high above in skyscrapers, and the world economy, of course, would come to a screeching halt. In response to all these fears, the U.S. government and American corporations spent over $108 billion on Y2K computer fixes. In the end, nothing fell from the sky, but the world's computers did manage to disrupt some credit card systems, especially in Britain, where they were supposedly sending out bills that weren't due till the year 1900. And of course, to the relief of billions of people across the globe, civilization survived the Y2K event, and we are still here to this day in 2023, thankfully. This brings me to the final countdown in my number one doomsday prediction that has yet to come into fruition, because the date is Friday, April 13th, 2029. On Friday, April 13th, 2029, the skies will light up with a blue light from the comet Apophis. The comet Apophis, many believe, is referring to the prophecy of the Hopi people of the Great Purifier, and the blue star Kachina and the red star Kachina. The blue star Kachina ringing in 2029 is, according to some doomsdayers, the end of everything as we know it. But that's not actually completely correct at all, or even slightly correct. It's not the end of times, and even the Hopi say that in their prophecy. It will be the great purifier that purifies the earth of all evil and all darkness. And those that survive will be those who go back to the native ways, living off the earth and having respect for the earth. That's in their prophecy and many other prophecies too. Many doomsdayers are putting out that dreaded date on Friday the 13th in April 2029 as being a day where that comet, Apophis, will crash directly into the planet Earth, destroying all of the Earth and all of humanity. And that simply is just not the case. If you actually read deeply in the prophecies, you'll see that the native Hopi people and many other native indigenous peoples talked about a time where that blue star would appear in the sky. I did a video called The Great Purifier. It's all about the blue star, red star prophecy of the Hopi people, the planet Nibiru, Planet X, and many other names that it goes by. So if you want really in-depth information, you're going to want to check out that video, The Great Purifier. The Hopi people talk about that blue star appearing in our sky, the blue star Kachina. And it won't be till soon after, again, as the Bible said in the beginning of this broadcast, the quote that we read from Matthew, no one will know the exact date or the exact day when things begin to occur. But again, the native Hopi people say that there will be those who survive, many, that will rebuild the new earth to the golden age. Again, when all of humanity comes together in pure love. And that date is definitely not going to be on April 13th, 2029. Instead, that's just ushering in the time cycle, when it all begins and the earth begins to purge the darkness from the planet, as the Hopi people say. So I would definitely recommend that when we approach 2029, that you don't quit your job, don't sell all your belongings, and don't go into credit card debt, because come April 14th, 2029, you will regret it. And you will know that it is a doomsday prophecy that's not going to happen. Just like the other 9 doomsday prophecies that I shared with you today. I really hope that you enjoyed hanging out with me and enjoyed today's content. And if you did, please show your love by clicking that like button. And if you want true, accurate predictions and real, true prophecies through the research and much more, you found the perfect tribe, baby. Smash that subscribe. Thank you for being a part of this community, and a big thank you to all the supporters who make this free content possible for everybody else. Whether you are a member of the community down below as a supporter, the Awaken Your Spirit community on Subscribestar, or whether you're just a member of this tribe by smashing the subscribe, I am grateful. Remember, you can find me on Rumble, you can find me on Spotify, and many other platforms. Down below, you will find the link to my newsletter and all the links to my social media platforms. Check out that newsletter, subscribe, it's free, you'll know what's going on, and you'll never miss any content in the future. So until the next time, beautiful friends, remember to celebrate life, celebrate you, and remember to be bold, be true, be kind, be you. Why? Because you're freaking awesome. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Dankashe, namaste, and much love.